This is John for MTG Nexus coming at you with some more Gruul Midrange in Modern. As a friendly reminder, if you like modern content, especially of a lightning bolt based variety, please consider subscribing to the channel, as we aim to be the most informative modern channel on YouTube, especially of lightning bolt based decks, and with a little bit of Pioneer and Legacy sprinkled in here and there. So we are going back to Gruul Midrange, a deck that we have not quite touched since the banning of Arkham's Astrolabe. Figure that Magus the Moon maybe gets a little bit better against the control decks in those matchups. But fundamentally, the Gruul deck has been relatively the same since the soft ban of Companions and Obosh kind of going away. So this deck, the core of this deck is the 8 mana dorks, 4 Arbor Elf, 4 Utopia Sprawl. I've seen some versions play 9. What number is correct? 8 seems to be the preferred choice. 4 copies of Lightning Bolt. This card can be a removal spell, can go phase, can deal with planeswalkers, etc. Running 6, kind of helping you hit your early land drops, especially if you happen to find a fetch land early. 2 copy of Skoos, pretty nice in the grindy matchups with which this deck tends to get into. Trading an awful lot of resources, lightning bolting things, stomping things, etc. Speaking of which, Bone Crusher Giant can be a play on 2 and a play on 3. So your card really kind of looks like this. Magus the Moon, some people just prefer to run straight Blood Moon. This is kind of your disruption package. Helps to slow your opponent down a little bit, etc. Can actually outright win you some games and some matchups. 3 copies of Pillage to kind of back that up. Blow up some lands, blow up some artifacts. Klothys, God of Destiny, one of the good cards in the grinding matchups, along with Seasoned Pyromancer. Pyromancer is a great way to refill your hand, cash in some lands, draw some gas, cash in some spells you can't cast, draw some lands, etc. 2 copies of Chandra, Torch of Defiance. This is, I think, one of the underplayed planeswalkers in Pioneer, although I think that has something to do with the fact that red's not particularly powerful in that format. This is a very powerful thing. It's card advantage, it's mana, it's removal, it's a win con with its emblem. 4 copies of Bloodbraid Elf. This is one of the primary cards you gain from not running Obosh. It's usually a 2-for-1 in some regard. The nice thing about this deck and its removal suite is it can go face and such. And then 3 copies of Glorybringer here at the top end. Gives you another potential removal spell on a stick, as well as having a 4/4 haste flyer. Pretty nice in a format where most of the premier threats are on the ground. Sideboard, Grafdigger's Cage, Relics, Graveyard decks. You know the drill. Relic can also come in against the control decks. Helps to kind of mess with their Mystic Sanctuaries, Uros, etc. 2 copies of Cindervines, pretty nice in any type of spell-based matchup. So good against Storm, good against Burn, good against a lot of different matchups. Also is your disenchant of choice in this list. 2 copies of Collector Roof. There aren't a ton of artifacts in this format, but there are equipment, there are Tron decks that are still using the Cycling Stars, so Oof can have its place in the sun. 2 copies of Weather the Storm and 1 copy of Obstinate Baloth help supplement your anti-burn package. 2 Choke and 1 Boil because blue decks are still a thing. Anger of the Gods. This covers a lot of different decks. Pretty good against Dredge, pretty good against any type of tribal strategy, whether it be humans, merfolk, spirits, burn, etc. Also pretty reasonable against the new mono white tokens deck that's been popping up here and there. For those of you who haven't seen that version, I suggest you check out Doomwake both on Twitch and on Twitter. He's been talking about the deck. Watched his stream the other night. It was pretty interesting. It's basically a tokens build that's using things like Intangible Virtue, Force of Intangibility, I forget which, the White Force, and Luxodon Luxodon, what is the name of that card? One that was in Standard recently, that's Convoke, and everything that convokes gets a +1/+1 counter when it comes into play. There's a lot of interesting things with that deck, although I do think it is a bit of a one-trick pony, and if people want to beat it, they definitely can. But that said, let's jump into Elite and see how we do. Back for match number 1, we're on the play against Fruit Kid. We have a Derpy Monster. Interesting. Well, this hand doesn't have a lot of gas, but turn 2 Blood Moon can be pretty rough. Special basic forest here. Basic island, go. Continue to draw lands, which is not particularly ideal, but, you know, whatever. Yield, pass turn. Basic island, basic island. So, Merfolk, great. Okay. It's a pretty decent draw. Okay. Definitively Merfolk. Okay. Trigger. Cast a dork. What do we have for the Merfolk matchup? Chokes, boils, and angers. Seems reasonable. Alright. Kept a hand on the strength of Megas, and Megas isn't particularly good here, so okie dokie. Definitely want Boil, definitely want our chokes. Megasci can go out, they're kind of garbage. Ember of the Gods can come in, and we go down and close this. Could potentially bring in like a Baloth, but I think this is more about fighting over their, being able to fight over their board. Like one of the few decks in the format that doesn't carry by a turn 2 Magus. Sometimes you keep a high upside hands and get punished a little bit, so. Definitely a decent chance they could leave Spreading Season because of Utopia Sprawl. So, gotta be mindful of. Yeah. I guess it's a mulligan, unfortunately. This is like, why is the mulligan? Alright, so... what are we putting back? Put back... appropriate and pillage, I guess. Go ahead. Obviously, if we get spreading seas, we're going to really hate our lives, but... immediately draw another land, which isn't, or a bunch of lands, which isn't ideal. Sure. Okay. So they left in Force of Negation against us, even though it's a relatively low impact card other than hitting Utopia Sprawl. Which Utopia Sprawl in some ways is closer to a Lotus Petal anyway in some spots. No Accelerator, choke on 3 on the draw, but no interaction. Don't think this hand's good enough. Going to 5. Going to 4. And that's how you'll lose a match. Alright, on to the next match. We're back for match number 2. So once again, looks like a mulligan. No place till 3 on the draw is just a good way to die. Basic mountain forest utopia sprawl. I guess. I mean, so we're on 5. Pillage, put back. Glory bringer, I guess. Mountain. Master so spear. Sure. Curious if we're up against Prowess or if we up against Burn. Still could be either right now. Still could be either right now. Nope, it's Prowess. All right. Rough bolt. Okay. Gotta love automatically passing through turns. So, some type of Prowess burn hybridization. Could be an Hayshi build, could just be definitely want Baloth, definitely want Weathers, definitely want Ingers. I guess once again it's pretty nonsensical here. Shiva Pillage. Cindervines could be good in the mid game. I don't particularly care if my opponent decides to board in Dragon's Claw or any of that kind of nonsense. And we do have Grim Creatures to kind of stuff Core Firewalker potentially. Don't really think we want anything else. This fine, but not like super exciting. Because like our accelerator doesn't actually accelerate us into anything right now. Like obviously if we rip a fetch land or something, it could accelerate us into Seasoned Pyromancer. Let's see if they just bolt the elf. Yep, that's fine. Last turn, plan on bolting something this turn most likely. Yep. Swift Spear. Basic mountain here, I guess. Stomping ground. It's painful, obviously, but looks like they're on a Hayshi build. I feel like they're going to hit a Lutz here. Nothing. Though the storm's not terrible, but I don't think we can afford to take an entire turn off to play it here. I think we'll get the control deck here, so we just force them to burn spells on creatures. Sure. Okay. What kind of damage can our opponent muster this turn? Okay. Sure. One, two, three, four, five, six. Sure. Lots of cycling lands this turn. life gain's gonna dominate kind of games. Draw 2. Alright, and Clothis is enough for the concession. Alright, so we gotta avoid getting dumpstered in the early turns. Still think this is our best configuration. Guess we'd even consider bringing in collector roofs maybe over the 2 pillages. Can't keep the Arbor Elf one land hand. Don't think we can keep this one. Sure. Took a lot of damage from our lands. Okay, we'll get lucky and they kept the one lander. Just kill you, go. Sure. Okay. Some bodies down. Yep. Sure. Waiting to find some life gain here. Sure. Alright, that was a pretty good top deck, if I do say so. We're back for match number 3. On play here. Just don't think we can keep this one. Two-lander, can't keep this one either. This hand's at least reasonable. Pass turn. Probably should have kept the bull at least. Tokens. Well, it's not quite sure what we're on, probably. Definitely want the Angers, probably want the Cinder Vines. I guess it's pretty much going to be Garbo in that matchup. Be lost, kind of like swatting at flies. This is the matchup that I was talking about, but us mulliganing to 5 just wasn't worth it there. This hand's okay, not fantastic. I still think we're going to keep it. Mainly because it has 3 mana sources, so... Opponent, once again, is likely on mono white tokens, which is a token strategy with multiple copies of different power-up effects. Kind of preys on the deck we're playing. Yeah, maybe they're not tokens, okay. Or they're just mono white stuff and stuff. Right on time, Arbor Elf. Yep, Force of Virtue, we knew that was coming. Don't want to be attacking him with our dear friend here. One, two, three, four, 5. So I guess I could Chandra plus pillage this turn. Blow up the Adanto. Obviously, if they have a pump effect here, we're in trouble either way, so... Spectral Procession, not particular. It's relevant, but it's not particularly relevant. Looks like this is a Luxodon. Venerate Luxodon. Anger of the Gods badly. Obviously in a lot of trouble here. I think we're just dead on board right now, but what can you do against mono white tokens? So 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And to block the Luckstone there. Wouldn't have mattered anyway. Now you see why mono tokens is all the rage. They beat up on the other mid-range decks. Back for match number 4. We're on the draw. Almost have too much mana this game, but it's fine. Okay. Ad Nausem. Not the best of matchups for us. Another one of those random matchups where Collector Roof's actually pretty good. Okay. Wow. That's a lot of mana. Goop. It's got the mana. I mean, like Collector Roof would have just been devastating for them. So post board, we've got some oofs and some Cinder Vines. So what's the fastest clock here? 4. So 6, 6, 6. 18. 16. Alright, am I dead? All the lotuses. Okay. Okay. Sure. Mass of the Moon. So if we hit them for 8 this turn, and then 6 plus the bolt next turn. So we're just hitting them for 10 here, so. These are just lethal on their own next turn. Went with a hecka awkward draw. Sleight of hand. It's our best draw, like Bloodbraid Elf. Wow, we actually stole that game. Okay. So we get some oof. There it is. Some Cinder Vines and Anger no. Boil no. Weather the Storm. Choke doesn't really do much. They lost kind of whatever. Megas can kind of get them a little bit. Just Clothis out this matchup. Feels like Clothis is just too slow in some regards. And then one Spyro here. Like, bolts aren't great. Like, they could definitely be bringing in Leyline. Mulligan, we need a mana source. It really doesn't do anything. This hand's okay. It's not like super exciting. Back the forest. Okay. Temple and the Lotus Bloom. Go. Let's use. Presuming you take Magus of the Moon here. Gotten caught with Sprawl there, I suppose. Bloodbird Elf, let's roll out. Not exactly the best of things, but it's a value, I suppose. Access to 5 mana next turn. So we can stomp and play Bone Crusher Giant and deal 5. Do with their scry. Card on the bottom. Okay. Take that long to play Phyrexian on life? That's kind of... And we're not beating a okay, Cinder Vines would be good. Okay, playing that as a blocker, I'm presuming. Okay, puts card on top. Dead Bristle? Yep. It's not exactly the best draw in the world, but it's not the worst either. The last cards at Nausem are just dead. Okay. Sure. First one to do a deck tech here for us. See if they brought anything spicy besides the Thoughtseize. Second Thoughtseize. Echoing Truth. Yep. Okay. Did not look like they had Pact of Negation in their deck. Again, this isn't the best of matchups. Our really only plan that matters besides the clock is Mana Denial. You know, so. Kind of rough leak. And obviously, there have been some small misplays on my part that didn't help, but like, you know, keeping a hand against Merfolk that was entirely basically reliant on Magus and then their basic island. Mulligan to 3 in the last game of that match. Squeak out a win against Hayshi style burn Prowess. Lost to mono white tokens just because that's a terrible matchup. And then we kind of got gifted a game 1 win here. And without the Thoughtseize, I think we might have snuck that one out. Because I think Magus would have hurt their mana a lot. So we have a lot of cards that are decent in the matchup. Collector Oath's pretty decent. Magus of the Moon's pretty decent. And we have an okay clock. Choke and Boil don't do anything because they're one of the weird blue decks that doesn't really play islands. Klothys is a really slow clock. Cage doesn't do anything. Relic doesn't do anything. This hand just doesn't do anything. Is it good enough with Spyro? I guess. It's particularly relevant in this matchup. Obviously, they thought see this hero in a lot of trouble. Yep. Hopefully the top of our deck is nice to us. I can be convinced that's a pretty good one. Spirit Guide's no small thing. Draw 2 cards. Oof's a pretty good one. That in their hand. Still Echoing Truth, so I don't think they're going to be able to combo this turn. Sure. Nice. So the lockout elements got us there. Barely. Whew! 2 and 2. On to the next match. Back for match number 5. We're on the draw. Seems pretty clearly a mulligan. His hand's at least keepable, I suppose. Question is, what do we put back? The cheese stands alone. Basic Island go. Go. We seriously played Merfolk again? Remand. Okay. Mono blue counterspells dot deck. Oh, okay. I love counterspells. Snapcaster Archmage's Charm. Just Spell Snare. Okay. Sure. Mystic Sanctuary, yay. Okay. So annoying. Blue decks are always a pleasure. Okay, boil, chokes, relics don't seem bad. Question is Megas even worth it in this matchup? Probably not. Anger, no. Collector Roof, no. Weather the Storm, no. Baloth, not really. Cindervines, eh. Shave a bolt here, I guess. Snapkeep. Probably doesn't have Force of Negation if they let Utopia Sprawl resolve. If you have Force of Negation, you use it here. If you don't, you're in for a challenging spot. Why wouldn't you grab? Oh, I guess you can't grab basic, whatever. Sure. Oh, they put choke on the bottom. Okay. That was a tricksy play. Okay. How many? Beep 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 beep. Remands can you play? Apparently that answer is a lot. Sure. So we can only cast one spell this turn. Good lord, these decks are so annoying. Why would you put opt back on top? These are the kind of games why no one wants blue to be good. So we just lose. Cool. I'm going to go off camera and drop a few explosives about how much I love blue-based control decks with Mystic Sanctuary and billions of counterspells. I'll be right back for the wrap-up. So we are back with the wrap-up with Gruul Aggro, Gruul Midrange in Modern. That was a sloppy league. A lot of mulligans, a lot of unfavorable matchups, some mistakes on my part with sequencing and stuff, like the very end bottoming that choke with an Ether Gust. I don't know in the end that it would really have mattered. You know, when you're facing down Remand into Archmage's Charm, into Cryptic Command, into Buyback Counterspell, into X, Y, and Z. It's really understandable why decks like Burn and Humans and Goblins all play, you know, a bunch of stuff that just mess with counterspell decks. Ether Vial's a nightmare for that style of deck. I think that was a style of deck that Gabe Nassif was playing in the Modern Challenge today. But long story short, you know, he played against Merfolk, kept a hand game number 1 off the back of Magus. Magus doesn't matter against him on a blue deck. Won game 2, lost game 3 because we mulliganed to 3, and there was really no sense in continuing at that point. Match number 2, we beat a Hayshi style Burn Prowess deck in 3 games, thanks to a large part our sideboard cards, especially in game number 2. Match number 3, we played against Mono White Tokens, which is an abysmal matchup for this deck. It's just a whole bunch of little 1/1s getting pumped up by a whole bunch of other stuff, and we're trying to swat flies with our big clunky cards in that particular case. Match number 4, we got paired against Adnaz. We were probably a dog in that matchup, but got lucky to steal game 1, and then game 3 we managed to find both Collector Roof and Company. And then match number 5, the wanted to be explicitive laden thing of counterspell, 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 concede. Game number 1, and then game number 2, many copies of Ether Gusts, followed by many copies of Remand, followed by more copies of Ether Gusts, followed by 1 Shark Typhoon, followed by dying to Bolt. So, yeah. Gruul was definitely a deck a lot of people thought was going to be well positioned in the new format moving forward. And it may still be once things shake out, but this was definitely a miserable league for the deck. So, anywho, this has been John for MTG Nexus. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, especially definitely some of those plays that I definitely know that I messed up this league. So, alright, we'll see you in the next video.